Throughout the ages, multiple countries have gone to war against each other because of religion. Even now, in Northern Ireland, this is no different. The two groups, the Catholics and the Protestants, had a bloody war that started over segregation issues and maintaining Northern Ireland or remaining in the United Kingdom. Even though the Troubles, a conflict between the Catholics and the Protestants in Ireland and Northern Ireland, were incited by decades of social discrepancy, political prejudice, and sectarian division, some believe and feel that unity can still be accomplished. Historians agree that the Troubles began on October 5, 1968. On that day, Catholics, who were in the civil rights group NICRA, or the Northern Ireland Civil Rights Association, lined the streets of Londonderry to protest against alleged discrimination between them and the Protestant majority. This conflict grew into a two-day riot between the police and the civil rights group. This event kick-started the bloody war. Even though that specific event was mostly believed to have started the conflict, the Catholics and the Protestants had been feuding with each other for decades before that. One particular incident sparked outrage and fury within the Catholic minority in Northern Ireland. A Catholic family had applied for a house in Caledon, County Tyrone. A 19-year-old unmarried Protestant girl had also applied for the same house. The people who received the application from the Catholic family rejected the application due to their Catholic faith and gave the house to the 19-year-old unmarried girl who was a Protestant. The family eventually had to share a house with 15 other people. In 1969, the first real fight or battle happened. On August 12th, the apprentice boys of Derry, who were Protestant, had gotten permission to troop to the edge of the bogside. While patrolling, the Catholics who were living in the area exchanged banter, and it quickly got heated. Furthermore, when the Catholics started throwing petrol bombs at the patrollers, the apprentice boys called the RUC and tried to storm the area. This turned into a three-day conflict known now as the Battle of the Bogside. This called England into assistance and sent military help to calm down the two groups. In the 1970s, the war became its deadliest. A total sum of 2,000 people died in the 1970s alone. This is about 50% of the war. Most of the important incidents happened from 1970 to 1972. The McGurk bar bombing was one of those. On December 4, 1971, McGurk's bar was as busy as usual with people getting a drink or visiting friends. Then, a 50-pound bomb was set on the bar and injured 15 and killed 15. The bar owner's daughter and wife died from the bomb, and he and his 3 sons were severely injured. Bloody Sunday is one of the more acknowledged battles in this conflict, and rightly so because of the severity of the fight. On the 30th of January, in 1972, people were protesting against internment that was going on in the region. Internment, or Operation Demetrius, was the arrest of Irish nationalists who were supposedly in contact with the IRA, or the Irish Republican Army, without a trial. They were arresting those who were in contact with the IRA because they were a dangerous group and had to be stopped. When the protesting had been going on for a while, the British Army opened fire on the protesters and killed 13 people. A 14th died from his injuries a couple months later and injured over 15. This sparked a bitter hatred between the two groups that would continue to grow until the Belfast Agreement of 1998. Bloody Friday was one of the most perilous hours in the history of Belfast we will ever see. In 75 minutes, 20 bombs detonated across the city of Belfast and caused multiple deaths and hundreds of injuries. This was caused by the IRA. This started a chain of fights between the IRA and local Protestant paramilitaries within the area. These were called tit-for-tat killings. After this big decade, people started getting tired of all the fighting in Belfast and Londonderry. This was the start of a turning point in the conflict. The 80s were relatively calm compared to the past 15 years, but there were also some big incidents. In 1981, the IRA and the INLA, or the Irish National Liberation Army, started participating in hunger strikes. These hunger strikes could last 2 months. These were not just made up, but had been a form of protest even before Christianity came to the island. The 1990s were more eventful in the sense of fights and the ceasefire between the two groups. London was also involved in the attacks. In 1991, the IRA attempted to assassinate the Prime Minister, Sir John Major, by firing upon 10 Downing Street. The attack killed 2 people, but did not harm the Prime Minister or any of his cabinet members. This began multiple ceasefires, but many of them were ineffective. This first ceasefire failed fairly quickly, but was a good try to end the political violence. The second ceasefire was a little better, but the violation of the ceasefire was a lot more detrimental. The breaking of the second ceasefire happened when the IRA bombed the financial center of London. This caused the city to lose $1 billion in today's money. After the bombing, peace treaties were being discussed between the political parties. The conflict ended with the Belfast Agreement. Some people believe that this war was destined to happen because of the power imbalance in peace that can be fully restored by a power-sharing government. The Protestants in Northern Ireland felt that their religion was superior and that the Catholics were inferior. That is why they were prejudiced against them. This is called structural violence. Now, after the Belfast Agreement, most theorists and historians believe that the power-sharing government will help the situation of regrouping. Now, the Integrated Education Act is starting to integrate schools in other areas. These are good signs of progress, and the conflict will soon be fully resolved. There are many injustices to the uninvolved innocent civilians, both Catholic and Protestant, in Northern Ireland. For instance, during the early 70s, many Catholics were protesting against internment. Internment was the arrest of a person without a trial. That violated the rights of the accused because everybody has the right to a trial if they allegedly broke the law. The government had the responsibility to stop these arrestings. Also, the income of the people was very meager, to say the least. 20% of the men in the city of Belfast were unemployed, and that is the most of any city in Britain during that time. The only reasons they lived and were able to feed their families were because of benefits. Called the wage stop, it gave the families who didn't have a job enough money to feed their families but didn't give a penny more. So then every family was living a couple pounds below the poverty line. This would prevent the unemployed families from earning any more. Subsequently, the quality of life deteriorated. The families in Belfast had the right to be able to choose their jobs and how they provide for their families. The government also had the responsibility to provide healthcare, housing, and basic necessities for life. The little children had their rights taken away as well. The little children had to live through one of the most dangerous periods in Britain's history and had almost nothing to eat and stared guns in the face on their way to school. The rights of the children were violated because every child has a right to a safe upbringing. The government was responsible for the well-being of the Northern Irish and Irish Commonwealth. Across the board, the Troubles was a very treacherous and savage time period in the history of Northern Ireland and in Britain as a whole. Many rights were violated during this time period. We need to make sure it never happens again.